Borderfield State Park, the beginning of a long journey up the California Coastal Trail. It's 1,200 miles from the Mexican border to the Oregon border. And along the way, I'll be passing quite a few marine protected areas, MPAs, and this one is along one of California's rich coastal resources. The Tijuana River mouth State Marine Conservation Area is adjacent to the Borderfield State Park, as well as the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve, which includes the Tijuana Slough National Wildlife Refuge. So there's reserves and refuges within the national river system. The reserve and the state marine conservation areas support thousands of residential and migratory birds, pods of bottlenose dolphins, and migrating whales. Hopefully I'll see some of those along the way. And the health of the adjacent coastal wetland, which is the largest one in Southern California, is critical for water quality within this state marine conservation area. And you'll see there the mouth of the Tijuana River. 3/4 of that is on the side of the Mexican border. 3/4 of the water that comes out of the watershed comes from the Mexican side of the border, and 1/4 is on the California side. So we don't have control over all the pollution coming down this river, but it does come out and feed into the Pacific Ocean just south of Imperial Beach, the southernmost town in California. So as I walk up the coast, you'll be getting 6 to 10 mile sections of the beach as I talk about what's happening in the area. And you'll see a close-up here of that area. It's a marine protected area, and the green part is the estuary on the inland side, and there's a lot. It's a nursery ground for fish, birds, clams, all sorts of things. So we start at Borderfield Park, and we walk south to the Mexican border where you'll see the fence. Now, the park sponsored an art project where they collected trash and let local school kids make great murals, which are hanging on the fence. So it makes a nice picture of beautifying the area with the trash that they found in the area, as well as some sea glass. Along the way, because I was walking this in May, you'll see miner's lettuce, which has flowers of yellow and orange. And this is an edible plant that miners did used to eat, and they ate the green part of the plant, something that they could use as a lettuce. They weren't growing really anything, so they could just pick it on the side. So that's normally what the green part looks like. And you'll see some yellow daisies and a lot of flowers blooming on the sort of dirt road on the way out to the beach. So beautiful time to hike in May. You'll see the fence on either side keeping you off of the dune plants. And as we look north, we'll see the salt pans and dune plants on the way north. And this is south towards the Mexican border. The buildings are on the Mexican side. The coastal trail goes south and north from this point, but I'll be heading mostly north after today. So as I walked south towards the border, I thought I could touch the fence, but I came to this huge installation. There's a Friendship Park area where people can meet their relatives, and it's open on certain Sundays, and the Border Patrol sits above it and watches what's going on. This is as close as I could get to the border fence, and the Border Patrol and their megaphone said, "Stay away from the fence." So I turned around, started to head north, got back to the sign, and kept going north from here. Hi everyone, hey, I'm down here at Borderfield Park. I'm going to put it really close to my mouth because the ocean's so loud. I'm going to have the ocean in my left ear for 1,200 miles. I'm starting at Borderfield Park, and I just started down by the fence there. And you see that bull ring in the lighthouse tower? That is actually in Mexico. So I'm at the border where we still have a fence, no wall yet, just a fence. And that little mesa right below the bull ring is called Friendship Park, where people can meet through the fence and talk to relatives in Mexico. So the Border Patrol wouldn't let me get super close. I got about 100 feet from the fence, and they put out their megaphone and said, "Hey, don't go there." So they do prevent you from doing that. So we're just down on the beach, and we're in front of the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve. and I'll be interviewing a couple of the scientists who work there next week about the estuary and how important the estuary is to our oceans, to cleaning the water that we run off into the ocean, and to protecting our coast from, large tidal influx of ocean water. And estuaries are also a nursery for baby fish, like flounder and things like that, that come in and lay eggs in the estuary. They also have tons of crabs, snails, and all kinds of good things. So I'll talk more about that when I'm sitting at my desk. For now, I'm just showing you beautiful nature as we walk along the coast north from the Mexican border. Today we're only doing about 2 miles north, and we're going to get to the mouth of the Tijuana River estuary, estuary, where we can't really cross because there's a lot of pollution coming down into that river. 3/4 of the watershed for that estuary is actually in Mexico, and only 1/4 of the streams and creeks and rivers flowing into it are on the U.S. side of the border. So we don't have a lot of control over the sewage or pollution that gets dumped into that river. We do have a lot of connections with the officials in Tijuana and Mexico so that we can talk about mitigating that pollution. But right now, the U.S. gets that pollution out onto their beach in their southernmost town called Imperial Beach. So you're allowed to ride horses on the beach here. So this is one place in San Diego where you can ride. So I'm giving you a cool view of these guys basically running down the beach with their horses. There's a lot of horse ranches right before you get to the trailhead where you can rent a horse and go for a ride on this beautiful beach. So they do have a fence up there. They're blocking off. This is the nesting time for a tern and a plover bird, and they kind of nest right on the open sand. So they want to keep animals out of there. You're not allowed to bring a dog into this park, things like that, because they would just go and find the eggs that are just laid out right on the ground. So that's why we have this. You see the fence there, and that's just to keep people out. I'll go over and I'll show you the sign, but it shows the plover and the least tern. And as we walk up, you'll probably see some of those birds coming down here to feed at the beach. So there's two things primarily they feed on, and one is the ghost crab, and the other one is a small clam. That's the clam, and that's called Donax. Variabilis. It comes in different colors. It's super tiny, and I will show that to you when I pick up another one. And the other thing they eat are these mole crabs, and both the Donax and here's a Donax opened up. So they can bury in very quickly. So as the water comes up and then goes back down quickly, they will just bury deep into the sand. This isn't like a huge population of them. Some beaches you see them bury in very quickly. And then I'm looking for a shell of the mole crab. It's only about 1 inch long, and it also buries very quickly. And the birds come down and you see them, they have their long beak, and then they'll go into the sand and look for that. I'm also going to show you a pelican. Oops, the water's coming up to my feet. This pelican here is coasting along. Usually they're in groups of 8 or 10, and they'll form a V when they're flying. So there's a lot of birds in this area. Those are the things that are visible to us. when we're on the coast. I'm still looking. Okay, here's, well, that's just the inner part of the crab. It doesn't show the little orange shell in the back, but you get the idea that they're fairly small. But that's where the birds are coming down to grab. Some of them also go for worms. You'll see, you know, a ton of holes in the sand, so the birds will be able to dig down and get some food there. And here's some more still pictures of all of those Donax that we found with their abyssal threads, and that's kind of how they collect their food. There's also some cockle shells mixed in. There were a lot of shells on this beach, and that's because not very many people get there. Now the birds stay on the hard-packed wet sand because snowy plover and the least tern nest in this area. Those plovers and the terns run into the water and get their lunch. They must run all day long. They're running up, away from the waves. The wave recedes. They turn around and they're looking for the Donax clams, the little bivalve, and the mole crabs that burrow into the sand. So once you run up and down a couple times, again, plover and the terns having lunch at the beach. They're probably 50 feet away from me, but I'm zoomed in a little bit, so. We did find a dead baby whale, and we can tell by the fins and the structure. The head was missing that this was a dead baby whale by the dorsal fin, and looking at the flippers in the back, it wasn't a seal. All right, well, I'm going to turn it off and save my battery. I'm tracking this, so later you'll see the track posted if you're on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. You can follow me at oceans.institute or just Oceans Institute. Oceans.institute is the website where I blog. And then on Twitter, I couldn't get that name, so it's called Salty Blue Line. And actually, the name of my hike is Salty Blue Line because I'm walking the Salty Blue Line up the coast of California. 1,200 miles from here to the Oregon border. Now, I'm not doing it through hike, I'm not doing it all in one place, but I am doing it in sections, which allows me to broadcast interviews with local people along the way when I'm back in my office, and allows me to talk about sections and also put hikes on Meetup where you can meet me at an access point, and then you can come in on that access point and just walk up a certain section of the trail and then go back to the road. So that's why I'm not doing it as a through hike. I can interact with a lot more people if I go back and forth to the trail, you know, at different locations. So anyway, signing off. I will do another broadcast later on today when we get to the mouth of the river. Thanks. Let's take a look at some of those pelicans flying along. The ones that are flying south, it's very easy for them to glide because they are headed in the direction of the wind. And here's a razor clam on the beach, as well as some of the mussels that we see, the mussels attached to the kelp beds. And that's just a foot of a teenager showing you the dimensions of the mussel. Hey, I'm back here at the mouth of the Tijuana River estuary. So I'm going to turn around and show you the mouth. This is our turnaround point today. I'll tell you why in a bit. And when you see us later, we're going to be on the other side of this river mouth. Now, normally if I was up at San Mateo Beach or Carlsbad State Beach, I would just walk wade across. But because we're at the Tijuana River, I'm not going to wade across this water. Now, the reason for that is because 3/4 of this river drains from Mexico. I'm going to come close here. Right now the tide's coming in. So let's watch that piece of seaweed float by, okay? So the tide's coming in, the salt water's coming in. It's not really high tide. High tide will be when it's up at that berm over there, or when it's really covering this entire sandbar here. So we're going to start seeing some of the actual estuary, which is what I'll be talking about this week. Is kind of estuaries 101, what goes on in the estuary, why are they important to you. So there's a tiny sandbar, but I've heard from the people who work in the estuary that that channel over there is about waist deep. And as you'll notice, I mean, there's some hikers over there. No one actually is going in the water. So here's a view of the estuary. The estuary headquarters is actually up by those buildings on the other side. And we'll be visiting there later this week. So here's the beginning of the estuary. And that whole sandbar is probably covered at high tide. I haven't checked the tide for today. But if we came here at high tide, probably this whole sandbar would be covered. So it'd be a lot wider than a small channel that we're seeing. So this goes back into the estuary, nursery ground for snails, crabs. I've heard small sharks and flounder and several other fish that are in this area. And the eggs hatch here. They're small young fish in the estuary, and then they head back out to the ocean when they're a little bit bigger. So good grounds for fishing. If I was on the other side, I'd ask these backpackers where they're going. They seem to have their sandals, like they've been walking a long way. So we'll find out. Well, we're going to be on the other side in about 2 hours, and then you'll see that video. But this is the mouth, and just look around here. It's very hard to see with sunglasses on where the different places are to flip your phone. And then you see up on the hillside there, that's Mexico with all the apartments and condos. Now you can see the bull ring way down there where we started. And looks like a major apartment. Hopefully you can hear me. I know with the ocean there, it's pretty tough. So we're going to walk back and get in our car and walk around up to where those buildings are and come down to the other side of this river. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye. Showing you the movement of the river as the seaweed drifts in. The mouth of the river from the south side will be on the north side soon. To the river mouth. I was kind of running away from the waves there. Walk down to the river mouth from the other side and go back to that point that you just saw. So my friends pick up beautiful things here. That is an olive shell. Would you like to toss it back or put it, toss it way out? Not too far, but I think those live in the estuary, but I would looks like an olive shell, but it's a little bit fatter. I'm gonna have to look this one up. Pelicans have wind, they have to work a lot at it. I'm going to just say hi, and I'll post this in the on the oceans.institute if you want to follow my walk from Mexico to Oregon. Follow Oceans Institute on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and on Twitter it's at Salty Blue Line. All right, see you guys later. I'm going to turn this so you can see the ocean behind me, and there we are down. We're going to hike back to there. For lunch, we were at La Posta Market on Imperial Beach Boulevard in Imperial Beach. LAPOSTA, and it's a grocery store as well as a takeout Mexican. I highly recommend it. Just to refresh your memory, we are now coming from the north, heading south along this beach back to the mouth of the Tijuana River, because as you remember, we didn't want to cross the river because of the pollution in the river. We're at the mouth now. You see the Border Patrol truck sitting there, and the river's full. Okay, I am at the Tijuana River mouth on the north side. We just had some great tacos for lunch, and those will be posted along with the video. So thanks for watching. This will be posted on Oceans Institute on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and on Salty Blue Line on Twitter. So here's the mouth. We're looking south to Mexico, and that is the lighthouse. Zero in on it. That's the lighthouse, and that is the bullfighting stadium right over on the Mexican border. So the tide's been coming up since we were on the other side at the end of the last video, and you're seeing some really nice mussels here, some kelp washing up, very pretty. Although we have heard that there's a lot of bacteria that came into the mouth recently. So there's a surf warning. Don't surf. So it's about 5:30, so sun will be going down in an hour or two, but it's kind of going into a cloud bag. I'm going to try to find some more pelicans that are flying up and down the beach, and I'm about a mile south of Seacoast Road where we parked, so we'll be walking up this trail and recording the track as I walk along and look for wildlife, marine wildlife, and all kinds of crazy kid wildlife on this beautiful beach in Imperial Beach, just about 2 miles north of the Mexican border. So thanks for watching, and tune in to the next video. We're walking north towards the little town of Imperial Beach, and you'll see the pier. I'll be doing that in my next segment, starting at the pier. California leads the nation in its network of marine protected area, but there was a lot of trash we picked up, including balloons. And once again, I'll remind you of, as we walk north past the Tijuana River estuary, we were crossing through a marine protected area. So I'll see you on my next segment, which is Imperial Beach up to Coronado.